In this Totem tutorial, we will show you how to build a Plan of Action and Milestones, or POA&M. A POA&M describes an organization's Get Well plan for its cybersecurity program. As you perform an assessment against the security control sets with which you are required to comply, such as NIST 800-171 or CMMC, you will identify deficiencies within your cybersecurity program and assign corrective action plans, or CAPs, to these deficiencies, detailing your plan for remediating them. The POA&M is the collective summary of these individual CAPs, and it will be used as a basis for addressing your organization's cybersecurity risks. Let's take a look at the process for creating a POA&M using Totem, our Cybersecurity Compliance Management tool. The first step is to create your system security plan by performing an assessment of all security controls. In this case, we are using the DoD 800-171 assessment methodology, which has been preloaded into Totem along with several other control sets. As we make our way through the assessment and identify non-compliant controls, we will assign CAP tags to each non-compliant organizational action, indicating that a corrective action plan will be needed to address this deficiency. We recommend that underneath each CAP tag, you include a sub-tag providing a more granular description of the corrective action. This will come in handy when we begin to put together our POA&M. Note that if you have ingested our SSP boilerplate template, these CAP tags and sub-tags will come preloaded into the implementation details. We have added in these tags because they identify common deficiencies that we have seen from our clients over and over again. Please also note that we strongly recommend that you finish your first cut draft of your system security plan before moving on to creating your POA&M, as the POA&M is dependent upon all relevant CAP tags and sub-tags being assigned where they ought to be. If you create your POA&M then decide to change your individual corrective actions, this could create some confusion. Ensure that your assessment is complete and your CAP tags are accurate before moving on to creating your POA&M. Once you have completed your assessment and assigned all relevant CAP tags and sub-tags, it is now time to add your corrective actions into the POA&M. Perform a global search for all related CAP sub-tags that you want to include in an individual corrective action plan. For example, if we want to add all non-compliant organizational actions that pertain to multi-factor authentication to our POA&M, we will do a global search for MFA, the sub-tag that we added in as we performed our assessment. To lock and load these into the POA&M, click the checkbox on the left-hand side of each organizational action that you want to add. Note that when you select an organizational action to add to a corrective action plan, you can move around into different control families and select other organizational actions, and Totem will save what you previously selected. Notice that upon selecting the checkbox next to an organizational action, an Add to POA&M button will appear at the top. Once you have selected all the organizational actions for a given deficiency, simply click the Add to POA&M button. This will take you to the Corrective Action Plan creation page. Once you are on the Create Corrective Action page, you will see all of the organizational actions that you previously selected. Totem also comes preloaded with Corrective Action Plan templates. These are generic boilerplates which state the minimum corrective actions and gap deficiencies that we find in most of our clients. Simply select the Corrective Action Plan template that corresponds with your deficiency, or if one does not exist, you can create one from scratch. Note that some fields will still need to be populated. You also have the ability to prioritize each corrective action plan. Typically, we would designate according to the FAR 17, with any corrective action plan corresponding with a FAR 17 safeguard resulting in a priority 1. This is because we have seen contractors' purchase orders revoked by their customers until they can attest to meeting these basic requirements. All other corrective action plans would then be designated a priority 2 or priority 3 depending on their level of urgency and the overall risk. There are many ways that you could prioritize your corrective action plans, but this decision is ultimately up to you. Additionally, you are required to identify deficiency or gap description with each corrective action plan. This is helpful in providing some context as to why the deficiency exists and why it is important to address that deficiency in the corrective action plan. There are several fields that you will want to fill out as part of your corrective action plan. First is a description of each individual corrective action. We recommend that you view this as a step-by-step process, and that your corrective actions reflect the order in which you will actually implement the solution. Again, note that these corrective actions were generated as a result of selecting a preloaded template. These fields would normally be blank otherwise. The second field is the estimated completion date. These are the dates by which you should reasonably expect to have implemented your proposed corrective action. You can either type in the date or select one from the drop-down calendar. Note that the furthest out corrective action date rolls up and will impact your overall estimated completion date if they are different. Next is the responsible entity field. This is the individual or group that you are assigning responsibility to for implementing the corrective action. All users that you have added to your Totem organization will appear in the drop-down for you to select, or you can free type an entity that is not listed. Finally is the resource estimate field. This is simply another field available to you to take notes or provide further explanation to any of these fields. If you would like to add an additional corrective action step, select the Add Step button on the bottom. If you would like to delete a corrective action step, select the Delete Step button next to the step you want deleted. With these fields filled out, you are now ready to create your corrective action. If you are unable to select the Create Corrective Action button, this means that a required field is missing input. Note that upon selecting this button, you will be brought to the POA&M page, which will show all of your created corrective actions. Note that you can then indicate the status of each individual corrective action. Select Ongoing if the corrective action is still in progress, or Complete if that step has been completed. Note that in order for a corrective action plan to become complete, each individual corrective action step must also be marked complete. These roll up, so when you mark your last corrective action step complete, the overall plan will also be marked complete. If any ongoing steps exist, the overall plan will be marked ongoing. If you create a corrective action plan and later decide that you want to add or remove an organizational action, select the three dots next to the corrective action plan you wish to change and select Modify Organization Actions. From here, you can add or remove one or multiple organizational actions. When you mark a corrective action plan as complete, the associated organizational actions will all become compliant. For example, these MFA controls were all non-compliant when we added them to the POA&M. But by completing the corrective action plan for them, they are now all compliant. This is why it is especially important that you not move into addressing corrective actions until you have fully completed the first build of your system security plan. Note that as a result of completing the corrective action plan and these organizational actions becoming compliant, this could have an effect on your DoD assessment methodology score. Your score will be dynamically updated if the completion of a corrective action leads to an entire control becoming compliant. The total score is reflected on your dashboard. Thanks for watching this Totem tutorial. If you have any questions about our Totem Cybersecurity Compliance Management tool, send us an email at support@totem.tech.